I can tell you in sales in general, most people, 50% in sales, will never make a follow-up call to a lead. So when you follow up with a seller or anything in sales, you're already doing better than 50% of your competition. So in sellers in our industry, like that, like I keep saying, the money is in the follow-up in that industry. So for every, let's just say 10 deals that you do, one will be that low-hanging fruit where somebody says, you caught me at the right perfect time. I need to sell now. The other 9 are people that you've been nurturing and nurturing and nurturing for a long time before that comes to fruition. If you don't follow up with them or have a system in place, that means you're spending all this money and time to get that 1 out of 10 deals. Whereas if you're working hard and having a good system, the money and the way to scale and grow and be consistent is that 9 out of 10 with the follow-up.
Welcome to the Real Estate Law Podcast. Thanks for joining us for another episode. Jason Muth here with Pride Away Stays and Straightforward Short-Term Rentals. We're here with attorney, broker Rory Gill. Rory, what's going on?
I hate to date these conversations, but I mean, I can't point out that this is really one of the first nice days in New England that just kind of makes us forget about what we just went through in the winter. But also, Jason, for you, this also means it's time that to spruce up all of the short-term rentals, get us ready for the summer high season.
Yes. And again, not to date this, but like there's so much stuff happening right now at our short-term rental properties. I'm actually at one of them right now in Nimways Cottage. I just had somebody throw a camera down our drain to double check that everything was actually cleaned out of that drain from last week's cleaning. I have 3 generators going in literally today. We had 1 trench already dug. I have a house getting rebuilt next door because of an insurance claim. I might do some string lights later. And we're talking to a great guest that could sympathize with all of us because he's also in New Hampshire and understands this short period of time where we could actually get some stuff done before the busy season. This is Jeremy Beland. Jeremy with REI Freedom and a whole bunch of other companies. Jeremy, what's going on?
Not much, man. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a great honor and a privilege. So thank you.
Jeremy, how are the black flies in Wyndham? Because they are
so
crazy
far, so
today.
Good. So far, so good. But I probably just jinxed myself. Yeah, it's definitely becoming. I love everything you guys were just saying about the warm weather. I went for a walk earlier today. I'm like, oh, finally, the 9 months of winter is over. Now we get 3 months of spring, summer, and fall before winter again. But the mayflies, the black bugs, I haven't seen them yet. I'm hoping I don't see too much of them.
They are brutal here at the lake. And right when I got out of my car, our guys that are installing the generators, I'll give them a shout out. Generator Connection here in New Hampshire. They service New Hampshire and Mass. That's unpaid, that plug. They were digging my trenches, and they're doing 3 trenches today, and they were getting swarmed. I ran inside and got some bug spray for these guys because I'm like, but they're used to it. They do like 6 trenches a day is what they tell me. So I don't know how they work in months like May, but what stinks, and if you're listening to this around the country somewhere else, you have your own pests that you have to deal with. Like, we don't have alligators up here. I know, but you do down in Florida too. We got the black flies, and just when the weather changes where you want to get all that outdoor stuff done, finally get those garden beds put in, finally do the string lights, like I mentioned, mulch, you just get swarmed. It's crazy. So, all right, we're not going to talk about entomology here. You like how I said that?
No, man, I'm an expert in that stuff.
Are you? All right, we're talking real estate today. Jeremy, he has a coaching program, but he also does a lot of work with, off-market deals, acquiring them, finding them, dispositions of those same deals. He has seen anything and everything. So I really want to get into the how and the why and the what of the type of work that you're doing. And because a lot of people that listen to real estate podcasts such as this one, they want to get into the space. They're into wholesaling. They know that somebody's doing deals like that. It's a great way for investors to actually turn a profit on deals, finding this stuff off of MLS and locking it up at a good contract price and then putting some work into it and making some money on the backside. So Jeremy, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the space, and we'll start there.
Yeah, thank you. So my name's Jeremy Beland. I'm 47 years old from New Hampshire, married, blended kids, 5 kids all together. Keeps us very, very busy. I started my journey with my New Hampshire home buyers back in 2017. Give you a quick short story about how I got there. So I was originally brought into this world with a single mom who was basically homeless. We grew up very poor and had welfare and all that stuff. She ended up getting married, and things were going pretty good until I was about 13 years old. And at that time, my family lost everything through bankruptcy, foreclosure, houses repossessed, everything. We lived a very transient lifestyle after that. I struggled through my teenage years, finally got my act together more or less into my early 20s, and found myself, by the grace of God, with no high school education, no college degree, a white collar sales job selling copiers of all things. And this kind of led me into a professional world of sales, which basically changed my life. Ended up meeting a girl, got married, and about 31 years old, or say about 33 years old, I had about 5 years of making 6 figures a year in sales, had a nice house, and now I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. And some of the people listening here may not remember, but in 2009, 2010, a big thing happened in this world, in this country, and that was the Great Recession of 2009, and I got slammed by it. Life was going really great at that time, but it wasn't just a housing crisis, it was also an employment crisis. And whereas I didn't have much education, found myself outside of a job, things started to get really grim really fast. We just put a huge addition on our house and had equity, and found myself 2 years later for making 6 figures can't find a work anywhere, and wicked upside down in our house. And back then, there really wasn't any loan modifications then. There wasn't really any refinance options. Basically, all the mortgage companies were being closed up left and right. I mean, our mortgage was selling off. We had a new mortgage company, seemed like every month. That was a really dark time for me. But leading up into that, I started to learn about real estate investing. Read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Matter of fact, took a Donald Trump weekend seminar for Trump University, was learning from Peter Conti, and I was starting to get my feet wet. And I probably would have really started my journey then if it wasn't for the recession, which basically changed my priorities. So I was sitting in a situation where now my life was about to repeat itself, where I was about to lose everything, just like my family did. I was really upset. I started to go through depression. I'm like, I'm going to lose everything. Here I am, a 1-year-old, 3-year-old. I made it, and now I'm going to lose it all. What a failure, right? And I had an opportunity to go to the Air Force. I couldn't afford to go back to college, couldn't find a job anywhere, but I had a chance to go into the Air Force. At 33 years old, to get an education, I was going to learn cybersecurity so I could come back out and sell what I thought was a recession-proof job of selling, network security. So, but that just seemed like the only option at the time. But in order to do that, I couldn't go through foreclosure or bankruptcy because the government wanted to take me because I needed a top secret clearance. At that point, I reached out to a local real estate investor who still lives in this area today, Concord, New Hampshire. He's still on my buyers list. Matter of fact, this is the only deal we ever did. He was actually the buyer. I was the seller. And he came in and he short saled my house, and he prevented me from foreclosure and bankruptcy. I ended up going into the military just before the age cutoff. And then I was in basic training with a bunch of 17-year-old kids. My nickname was Gramps. I was able to leave my family for 6 months to go make $32,000 a year, but it allowed me to rebuild myself and start this trajectory to where I am now. But that guy came in and he really helped me, like really, really helped us. Like he was, because you can't profit from a short sale. He was allowing us an opportunity to like sell our washer and dryer to him, our pool, just weird things around the house. And he was giving us like a few $100 there, a few $100 there. But honestly, it was like literally food on the table from my family, food on, clothes for my little children. It was Christmas gifts. It was like huge, huge help. That was my real first experience with being a real estate investor and understanding what a distressed seller goes through and what a buyer can bring to the table. And then, I came out of that situation, ended up getting divorced. And then, I found myself, approaching 40 years old as a divorced dad with 2 young kids, and just feeling like, my future was in question. I was making 6 figures again, had a good sales job. But as you guys know, the older we get, we see people that work for these companies for long periods of time. In your 40s, you're very easily expendable. I don't care how many years you work for people. And I was feeling that mortality and that uncertainty, and it was making me nervous. So I started researching more and more about real estate investing again. I was looking at flipping, buy and hold, knew I wanted to own property at one time. But I said, you know what? I don't have any money. I didn't understand that I didn't need my own money at that time. I just figured I needed money to do everything I needed to do, but I didn't have any. So I learned about wholesaling. Came across this podcast called Wholesaling Inc. and Tom Kroll. Listened to it for a year while I was traveling for my sales job. I said, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And because I didn't really have any money, I decided at that time I was going to sell my townhouse that I bought just 2 years earlier, that had some equity in it. I sold that. I made $17,000 in equity on that little condo, moved my kids into a crappy little 2-bedroom apartment in not such a nice area. And I spent $5,000 into this coaching program, which taught me how to wholesale my first house in 90 days. Went on to do 10 houses that year, and $6,000 for marketing. So $11,000. I started my business at 40 years old. I talked to you guys today at 47. We've done over 425 off-market deals since then, and we're hovering right around $10 million now in gross profits since I started that journey.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear in that story, I mean, I hear kind of a lot of, deep personal moments where you were put in a position, you had a decision to make, and you found your way out of difficult circumstances. But when we connected to the real estate, you're dispelling two preconceptions that I've even had about wholesaling. One is that it can be somewhat predatory. When some wholesalers out there can come through and take a property off of somebody who may not understand the full situation, but you've given voice to what it actually is like to be in the seller's end and what a positive that transaction can be. And then the other preconception I've had about wholesaling is that it doesn't really work that well in our area, that being New England, because sometimes when you hear the national audience, kind of the volume and the prevalence of wholesaling seems to be larger in other parts of the country, but you've made a good effort right here in our backyard doing wholesaling. I guess I want to ask, are my preconceptions way off base? And, what do you have to say about kind of that angle of your story?
Yeah, no, I think those preconceptions are there for reasons. I think there's predatory people and probably in anything that we do, right, in any industry. And I don't think wholesaling, and we call it wholesaling, but it's really, we are working at acquiring off-market deals direct to seller. Wholesaling really just, is more about assigning the contract to somebody, which is how we started, but that's not necessarily our primary business model today, but we are focused on working direct to the seller. But these sellers, a lot of them, they don't fit the certain box, as you will, that are a traditional listing, right, for an MLS or for like a realtor. There's a lot of them that need help outside of just highest and best, and we provided great value. That person that came and helped me, that invested at that time, I've been able to pay this forward hundreds of times over, which is really a remarkable feeling and achievement in itself. We make a lot of money doing it, but it's really the value, right? These people have a problem, and we have to identify the problem, and we have to tailor a customized solution specific for their problem. That is the value we bring. We're a marketing business to find them, but our services bring in the value as a problem solver and a solution to their problem. In exchange of how we get paid is just equity in their home. So there are people who are predatory, I'm sure. When we work with elderly, especially in our Florida markets, we always make sure that there's other people around to make sure that they're, if they're elderly, that somebody's signing, like a child is making sure that the parents are signing on their best interest, because we don't ever want to deal with any of that, right? We want to do what's best. And, we come across some people that have questionable, maybe mental capacity at certain age limits as well, or different times, and we'll just back away and put them in a different direction. So you have to be careful of those moments, and you should be, because you want to do the right thing. And if you don't, you're probably going to get sued anyway, which makes a great conversation for this show, but not in my real life. So that's all that stuff is true, but we come from a place of empathy. We're here to make a friend. We're here to be a consultant. A lot of times we're not the right fit for people, and we're okay with that. And we'll help them either way. But we come from a place of empathy, hoping to do business with them, hoping to solve a problem. But many times we don't, many times we do. As far as your markets, yeah, I think there's some truth to that as well. Texas, Florida, those markets are great for wholesaling. That's why virtual's so trendy these days. I don't really like the virtual model. I like the belly to belly, face to face model. But I've been here since 2017 in New Hampshire. There's me and one other guy has done it at a local level, at a high level. But the thing about distress is, regardless of where you live, unless it's really super rural like New Hampshire or Vermont, there is so much of it, and there's so much of a need for those people to get help. that it's like a conveyor belt. I could close 50 to 100 deals around here a year, and my competitors could close another, a couple hundred deals a year. And there's still way more that we aren't identifying that need our help. So it's just a never-ending conveyor belt. Some markets are obviously better than others, but New Hampshire, Massachusetts does just fine. There's plenty of people who need our help around here.
Is there a type of city or town that people should be looking at if they want to get into wholesaling? Like, are they usually the secondary or tertiary cities, or the cities? Is there an income level, where people's homes might be ripe for these types of conversations? I say this just because, we lived in South Boston for a long time, 20 years. We're up in Newburyport right now. We have property in New Hampshire. A lot of our towns seem, I don't know. I wouldn't know where to find these places. And I'm saying this as a novice to the space. You're
Yep.
saying, you as an expert, you could pull lists and everything and see what properties might be distressed. But, just from a geographic standpoint, what are the markets that seem to be more active with homes that might be the ones that people can acquire off-market deals?
Yeah. So my recommendation for anybody who wanted to come into this and was just looking at a market in general, right? First of all, you don't want a market that is people leaving there in droves, right? If there's no business and the economy's tanking, obviously that's not a place you want to go to. If the economy's booming, that is fine. That's a good thing. But really, you want to find the niche between, I hate to use this term, but like war zone. So like really bad crime, low income areas, and your very affluent areas where you're going to have your really high end customized homes. Everything in between is great. So what you're really looking for is people that are, that next step up over a low income, all the way to high middle class, and everywhere in between low middle class, middle class. I don't know what the terms are. But beginner homes, right? First time home buyers, people that are going to be selling the homes that have had a lot of deferred maintenance, that people are going to renovate these, and people are going to be first time home buyers or second time home buyers. When it comes to wholesaling like multifamilies and things of that nature, again, I would stay away from really the really bad, low quality, high crime areas. You will be able to get those really cheap. You'll probably be able to sell them, but you're not going to make a lot of money on it. As somebody who wants to have value in the property you get, that is really the sweet spot. And you can find that anywhere. And here in New Hampshire, that's basically every town that you could think of here in New Hampshire, south of Concord or Laconia, Farmington, I've done deals in. In Massachusetts, everything east of Springfield, I've done just about every town as well.
You said something about it being a marketing business, right? And I'm sure that's something that you learned and identified early on when you took that first course and really started understanding the wholesaling space. Explain that side of it. Like, why is this a marketing business?
Yeah. So, there's a lot of people out there who need help. They don't know about you. So your job is to go and get in front of those people. And, there's so many times over the years of being like, man, I'm so thankful you guys sent me a letter or called me or, whatever marketing channel we found them. They're like, you guys have saved our lives. That's why we have like over 100 testimonials and Google reviews, because, we're providing so much value and these people are so incredibly thankful for it. But they don't know you exist unless you show them that you exist. A lot of times we just stick in our own little bubble, right? So yeah, we are a marketing business, and there's so many different marketing channels between inbound and outbound marketing channel. There's cold calling, there's direct mail, there's TV, there's direct streaming TV, there's radio, PPC, pay per lead, SEO, Facebook, social media marketing. All those lead sources work. Some are better than others. Some cost more than others. But you need to go out and get in front of people, and it's just like any other industry that requires selling or marketing. It's a numbers game. So, you might have to get in front of like 7,000 people, only identify like 100 of them may fit the criteria. And out of those, maybe you only meet with 10 in a calendar year, and maybe only buy like 2 or 3 of those homes. But it doesn't mean that, more people in the 7,000 don't come further down the line, because in our industry, it's all about the follow-up. So a lot of the people we work with, we don't always get the ones that got a letter, and we call it low-hanging fruit, said, hey, I'm super distressed. I need your help. I'm facing a imminent sale in like 3 weeks. Can you buy my house now? Those happen. But a lot of it's just working with people who are, habitual procrastinators. They struggle making good choices. You know, the world may be crumbling around them and they're hiding under a rock, hoping things go away. We're dealing with a lot of people like that, you know, that are very emotional and dealing with a lot of personal and financial crisis. So, you know, working and navigating their timeline takes time. So a lot of the stuff that we do is people that we were talking to for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. Matter of fact, last year, our biggest revenue stream was here in New Hampshire, was our database of follow-ups. The average time for when that lead came into when that actual sale closed was an average of 600 days. So these are people we've been talking to for 2 years before the timing was right for them.
Mm-hmm. When at your point in the journey of all of your different businesses, I know you're buying and selling in New Hampshire and Florida, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And Mass, yep.
And Mass. At what point did you start to spend some decent money on marketing and really decide you had to make that investment? Because I'm sure when you first started, you're like, how am I going to afford this? Everything I used to work in the media business.
Yeah.
Everything that you said right there is expensive. TV and
It
radio
is.
is expensive. Streaming TV is expensive. The cost per thousands are expensive. Direct mail is expensive. I just sent direct mailers out and I actually did them all myself. And each piece cost, over $1, right?
Yep.
Postage these days is whatever, 60 something cents, just the stamp. So when did you say, okay, I need to spend some money on this and really start spending some money on it to see some results?
Yeah. So, my very first mailing, when I told you I signed up in 2017, I had $6,000 for marketing expense. The coaching program wanted us to send out 2,000 handwritten postcards a week. They were like these handwritten copy. It looked like handwriting postcards. They're like 50 cents, right? So it was like $1,000. I sent $1,000 out, phone didn't ring. Sent out another 1,000, phone didn't ring because they wanted to send us every week. And I'm like, what's going on? All of a sudden I go to get the return mail. I'm like, I put the wrong phone number on these. I didn't even realize. Now like 1/3 of my marketing budget's gone, and I'm like scrambling trying to find the number. I have no access to it. So I'm like, so I had to scrape all those and send out another couple thousand. It was lucky to get my first deal under contract, before I ran out of money. But that first year was like, all right, I'm running out of money, get a deal, running out of money, get a deal. So I stayed with direct mail for that first year to 2 years. I really believe in the one thing, right? So, and this is what I was coached early on, and this is what we teach now, is really, first of all, direct mail was great because I was working a full-time job and it was a marketing channel that I could weave in and out of my lifestyle at the time. Whereas, I couldn't dedicate 3 or 4 hours a day cold calling. It just wasn't feasible for my lifestyle. But, I would just get better at the marketing. And as I was able to generate more leads and convert more leads, we could start adding a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more. But really, the first couple of years, I really had no guidance or no clue. I didn't know. I wasn't even keeping track with KPIs or anything. So I just started like, let's do bandit signs. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And it wasn't after a few years of like overspending, underspending, and riding this up and down roller coaster of lead gen that I realized that, we need to keep track of our numbers. So now we run KPIs. We understand that, all of our marketing channels take a minimum of 90 days to show if they're going to work or not. Some things like cold calling and direct mail could take 6 to 9 months before you see any real ROI on it. So, the answer to your question is just like, I kind of was just feeling forward in the early years, just figuring it out. There's times where one year I spent over $100,000 too much on mailing that I'll never get back, that my guys couldn't even handle all the responses. Because my thought was like, hey, we need more leads. Let's just spend more. But that wasn't the answer either. We spent too much and didn't convert them. And then there's been times we spent too little where we don't get any. Now we know, so when I tell people, I like to start with one marketing channel, start off very slow and steady. And when you get to a point where you start to do about 25 to 35 leads per deal, once you're really in that area and you're doing well with that area, that's a good conversion ratio. Then you can start looking to add more to that marketing channel, but you should be keeping track with KPIs. And then you kind of just push that one marketing channel to like, the point of like diminishing returns. And at that point, you can look into adding some secondary and marketing channels and just continue that process going forward.
I want to ask about the lead conversion and the follow-up, because I think people in every industry have made some variant of the mistake where they go out, they get a ton of advertising, they have people come to their website, register, then they don't really have much of a plan for how exactly to follow up or to convert those leads. What are some of the strategies that you found to be effective?
Well, I can tell you in sales in general, most people, 50% in sales, will never make a follow-up call to a lead. So when you follow up with a seller or anything in sales, you're already doing better than 50% of your competition. So in sellers in our industry, like that, like I keep saying, the money is in the follow-up in that industry. So for every, let's just say 10 deals that you do, one will be that low-hanging fruit where somebody says, you caught me at the right perfect time. I need to sell now. The other 9 are people that you've been nurturing and nurturing and nurturing for a long time before that comes to fruition. If you don't follow up with them or have a system in place, that means you're spending all this money and time to get that 1 out of 10 deals. Whereas if you're working hard and having a good system, the money and the way to scale and grow and be consistent is that 9 out of 10 with the follow-up. So, you need to have a good system in place there. A lot of people don't, let's talk about like sending out those mailings, right? So, if you send out 5,000 mailings, people are like, I only got 1 deal out of it. Okay, well, what if you send those mailings again, that same list, right? Because you may get people one time on the first time through, you may get some people on the second time through. A lot of times it's 5 touches before you actually even get in front of somebody or even get the deal under contract. So you can squeeze that list and send it out multiple times. You can text it, you can cold call, you can mail it, that same 5,000 addresses, and get many deals out of it. And then if you show the lag effect, right, your lag KPI a year later of all the ones that you nurtured through there, you're like, holy smokes, that list performed really well. But if you just go, Rory, like you said, and just send out 5,000 letters and you get 1 deal out of it or no deals, you're like, oh, that didn't work out really good. That's not how it works.
Rory, I just realized that your mother's a wholesaler with this lot she wants to buy here at Baxter Lake. She wants to buy a lot that's vacant that she wants to put a boat on. And she sends a letter and a Christmas card every year to this guy that has done nothing with this lot. And at some point she's going to get it. He's going to say, I'm going to sell it to you. I know her list is 1 and she's nurturing that list. But okay, so let's just say that 5,000 list that you just talked about, 5,000 records right there, right? You're an expert doing this. Okay. What if I started, I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to do this, but like, let's just say I did, I want to start wholesaling. I took the same list. Okay. Can I have success with that same list, despite the fact that you're also tapping into that same list?
Yes. So, the people who have more time, energy, and knowledge into learning the skills of how to talk to sellers are going to perform much better. So you may generate 60 leads because you're relatively new at talking to off-market sellers and only get 1 deal. My team, because we've been honing the craft for so many years and are really good at it, right? And we've had a lot of training, a lot of coaching. We can take those same 60 leads and generate 4 deals. So you're 60 to 1 because you're relatively new. I'm 15 to 1. So that is where a lot of this sales skills comes in that separates, the top guys from the bottom guys. But with that being said, a lot of it's just personality, right? So you may connect with the seller, especially if you don't make it so much about the numbers or so much about the sales. If you're just going to make a friend, it doesn't matter how good I am sometimes. If, Rory goes in and the person likes Rory and feels a connection with Rory, they may do business with Rory. Now, Rory may only get 1 deal out of that 5,000. I may get 7, but he still got 1 deal that I didn't. So, there's plenty of opportunity for everybody. I think, we just need to understand that all marketing channels generate leads. You need to come from a place of empathy. You need to come and find out what their problem is, get them to be a truth teller, because, we're a truth seeker and a truth teller. We want to be very honest and transparent, and get somebody who's like me at that time, going through a financial crisis, embarrassed, ashamed, depressed. I don't want to open up about all the stuff to a complete stranger. But in order for somebody to give me value, you need to do that. So you need to learn the skills and coming again from an empathetic approach, get this person open up to you. What's really going on? What are your plans? How can I help you? And once you figure out all that stuff, then you can just go ahead and provide great value in exchange for the equity in the home. And, and the better you get at that, and the more you do it, and the more you learn about it, the more successful you be. But somebody like, again, I don't mean to keep using you, Rory, as an example, but even your mom at that one piece of land, they may have a connection, and sometimes that's all it takes.
I don't know if you're still making your phone calls now. You probably have a team of people that are doing it, but like, did you weave your story in when you first started doing those calls for building leads up with wholesaling?
Yeah, so I don't do any of that stuff anymore, but at times when I did, I always like to, build rapport through things that I feel like my sellers could relate to, right? I've been through a divorce, so if they were going through a divorce, I could relate to that, right? There's a lot of things that we do, and this is another thing that we teach on our coaching program and to our acquisition guys. Find things you can relate on. Again, being empathetic, right? I know what it's like to be in a short sale. I know what it's like to lose a job. I know what it's like to feel that way. But we also know what it's like to lose someone that we love, or to struggle with a significant other, or to lose a job. We can all relate to that. So when you're dealing with these sellers, if you can bring some relatability to the situation, that makes you much more humanized to somebody and allows you to have that stronger bond. At the end of the day, you're looking to make a friend, right? So if you think about like how you'd want to build a friendship, right? You want to have a friendship of honesty, transparency. You don't want there to be any hidden agendas. And then if you can make things work, great. But if you can't, you can't. But if you come in from that mindset, a lot of times you're just able to provide a lot of value for the seller. And that person is like, I want to do business with you because I feel like you really care about me, because I'm just concerned about my unique situation. I need to know that you can come through and deliver that value on my unique situation and get the deal done. That's really what I care about. Can you do that? And if they feel like they can relate with you and trust you, and that you're being honest, even being very transparent and saying the hard things that you don't want to, a lot of times it'll work out for everybody in the best.
Let's talk about the disposition side. So the side that we've talked about so far has been finding the deals. Now you got a deal. What do you do?
Yeah, so we keep saying wholesalers. This isn't you guys. This is everybody in the industry. Anytime you get an off-market deal, we think wholesaler, but we are off-market acquisition experts. Wholesaling is taking a purchase and sales contract for 123 Main Street and assigning it to a cash buyer for an assignment fee. That is wholesaling. That is great. But what I love are all the other disposition strategies out there. And once you learn how to leverage private lending and use other people's money, now you can make a lot more money per deal. We leverage the MLS, we wholesale, we buy and hold, we flip, we do it all. Those disposition strategies are great. You're spending a lot of marketing money and a lot of time and effort to go acquire these off-market deals. You're providing a great value. The last thing you should do is be giving these away as a motivated seller to some cash buyer for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. You should be thinking $40,000, $50,000, $100,000 per deal. That way you don't have to do so many deals. You can do less deals, provide great value, and make more money per deal. That's what I like. That stuff's super exciting for me.
Yeah, in Jason's question, he asked dispositions, which I think is the right way to think about it. Once you've acquired this deal, you've found an acquisition that makes sense. The sky's the limit. I mean, there are properties that would work great for long-term rentals, short-term rentals. There are properties that would work great in a traditional wholesale. There are properties that would work great in a buy, hold for a little bit for tax purposes, and then sell them on the other end. There are a host of different strategies that are out there, and you've done the hard work by getting the property under agreement. Wholesaling in that sense is only kind of what you do when you just don't have the option to fund it or hold it yourself.
Right. And you don't need your own funds to fund it, right? You can always use a hard money lender, but there's a lot of people out there that have money, whether it's self-directed IRA, 401k, whole life insurance, equity in their homes, whatever the case may be, that would love to partner up with somebody who's doing real estate deals and can give them good returns. So that's great. But I mean, there's a lot of different exit strategies, right? So before this call, we talked about my first Airbnb. That was an off-market deal that we came in and we bought it, right? We renovated it, we got it all set up, and I refinanced it with a loan and got, now I have a loan on it. That's how I acquired my first Airbnb. All my rental properties I bird with that as well. We bought them off market, we went and renovated, got them rented, we got them refinanced with commercial loans. And that's how we acquired all of those. We got a deal in Atkinson, New Hampshire, a town that you guys are familiar with, last month, where this guy had a really nice townhouse, like a really nice townhouse. A couple bathrooms were dated. But this place was spotless. For whatever reason, he wanted to sell off market and he wanted to sell in a hurry. We had to close on this property in 3 weeks. We took our private lender's money. We bought this property on a Tuesday. On Wednesday, all we did was remove a couple things of furniture, pressure wash the outside of the condo because it was just dirty. We wanted to show well. We didn't even clean the inside because the guy basically cleaned it himself. It was spotless. We put it on the market on Friday. Now, closed Tuesday, had it on the market Friday. Now, this is a nice house, not a like dilapidated house, a nice house. And we had it under contract for a retail buyer 2 days later, over asking. And after commissions, closing costs, paying back on lenders, we're looking at probably make about 50 to 55K after concessions on that. And that's a nice house. Sometimes we take these ugly houses that are so bad, and it's like a $200,000, $300,000 rehab, and we'll buy it with private lending. We'll clean out all the junk, throw it on the MLS. All the the rehabbers will come and they'll bid up, and we'll sell it to them. We'll make 40, 50K, and we don't have to do anything. So we do all that stuff as different disposition strategies rather than just assigning it to a cash buyer for 10 grand, 15 grand. And the nice houses, there's not even enough meat on the bones for those investors anyway. And half of what we do is make money off nice houses every year, because nice houses are distressed too. My house during the recession was a nice house. I was distressed. So that happens.
What's the role of attorneys in your business, both on the acquisition side and the disposition side?
So I am a big believer in attorneys, and there's a lot of people get started in this business that just feel like they can just start doing contracts and acquiring different contracts from different states and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. Thankfully, my coach, when I started, said you need to find yourself a good real estate attorney, which we interviewed a few. And you need to have somebody that understands exactly what your business model is. So if you are going to do off-market acquisitions, you need to have a real estate attorney that is familiar with working direct to sellers in the real estate world, that can then create the purchase and sales contract that is specific for you, that is in compliance with your state, because not all states are the same. Every state is very different. Some states have, like New York, they're different from different counties. So you need to make sure you're very in compliance, your assignment contract, your business is in compliance, all this stuff. So those real estate attorneys help us. They've given us, my attorneys give me a lot of free guidance over the years of how to handle different situations, because when you're dealing with distressed properties, there's a lot of title issues that come up. There's a lot of family discord, where there's family fighting, probate, inheritance. There's a lot of situations that come up, and having a good attorney that can navigate all that for you is critical for your success. And if you don't have a good real estate attorney on your team, I'm telling you, you are losing a lot of freaking money. And then on top of that, you need to have one for, like us, for evictions. Unfortunately, evictions are part of this business. You will buy some properties that have deadbeat tenants in there, bad tenants in there, violent tenants in there, tenants that are trashing the place. Because whatever that landlord was doing before you, and you, in order to basically take this property over and get it right again, you're going to have to evict some people. We're going through a couple evictions ourselves, one in Mass, one in New Hampshire right now. That is a regular thing in this business. So you have to have a good eviction attorney. You have to have a good real estate attorney. If you don't have both, you're foolish, in my opinion.
So talk about REI Freedom before we get to our final questions. I know that all this knowledge that you have acquired, you've now packaged together, and you have some students.
Yes, yeah. So we started a coaching program last year, late last fall. We teach people how to acquire off-market deals, but we really specifically teach them our philosophy and our approach of how to provide value, come from a place of empathy, and the sales skills it takes to work with people that are distressed, that are habitual procrastinators, that will ghost you to no end, that will hide under a rock and hope that all the world's problems go away, and all the challenges that come along with this industry. It takes years of practice, years of coaching. We provide a lot of coaching. With that, I teach a lot of the business and marketing side and the back end systems, but we work with the great Dan Toback, whose brothers are Tom Kroll and Todd Toback. He has done over 600 acquisitions himself personally over the last 10 years down in Florida. If you think about 600 deals himself, now my businesses have done over 425. He's done 600 himself. That is a lot of living rooms to be sitting in the course of a decade, considering you probably have a 30% cancellation rate. He is a tremendous, wonderful person that is just so skilled at teaching this. We hired him as a coach for our guys a couple years ago, and it was just like game changing. And then we just decided to build this coaching business because there is a need. A lot of people are like, what marketing channel, what CRM? Like, that shit matters, but it really doesn't matter that much. You really need to get good at talking to people and providing value. If you can get really good at that and get your conversion from 60 leads down to 15, 20 leads per deal instead of 60 to 1, that's where all the money's made in this business, and that's what we coach.
Mm-hmm. How much did you visualize all this like 10 years ago? Like back when you were, coming out of the Air Force before you started this?
Man, it's my life is very surreal. Honestly, it's surreal. I'm so humbled. I'm so thankful, so grateful. Like, I love what we do. So every day I work, but I don't work. I've built multi-million-dollar markets from my kitchen table over these years with 5 kids. My kids are like, they're like, oh, you have to work today, because they just expect us to be always home and doing things. And I've been so blessed to have time freedom and escape the rat race and the handcuffs. Man, I never foresaw that I'd be in this situation. And sometimes, I get so caught up in this moment, like the gap in the gain, right? I'm always so focused on the gap that I have to make. I don't really really appreciate the gain that I've come from. I never visualized this. If you would have told me at any point, even 3 years ago, this is what your life would be like, I'd be like, no way. But now, after experiencing it and knowing that I'm teaching other people what the power, this is why we call it REI freedom. Because I live a life of freedom through real estate investing. And that can look any way for anybody, whether you want wholesale, flip, buy and hold, it doesn't matter. But you can have time freedom, right? And live life on your own terms. And there's so much value to that. It makes me emotional thinking about it, to be honest.
You think there's anything in common with the people that don't do well with the program or that in this space? Because you have such an optimistic outlook, put in the work, figure out how to sell, do all this, and you'll be fine. Like, I understand that, but like, what's the commonality with the people that start the program and then just like it doesn't work for them?
I
Because
think
those are
so. There's a few things that I've noticed over the years. A lot of people don't want to invest in coaching, and I'm not sure why. They just feel like I can go to YouTube University, I can learn it. And I understand that a lot of people don't have money. I didn't have any money. That's why I had to sell my townhouse. Not everybody's going to be that committed. But if you could find a way to get a mentor or coach, it's definitely going to expedite your growth and your success track. It's going to save you money in the long run. YouTube University may show you the ingredients of something, but they're not going to teach you how to build a recipe. So a lot of people start trying to figure it out themselves, but it takes longer than they anticipate. Even with great mentorship and coaching, to get your first deal could take 3 to 4 months with consistent marketing, right? So the first deal is great, but what's great about it is the power of belief. It's like, wow, this actually works, right? And like, I could do this. But if you're like fumbling along and trying to figure out on yourself on your own, there's so much stuff that you think you know, but you just don't know. You may never even get there. It'd be 6 months, 9 months, a year. So 90% of the wholesalers never even make it to their first deal, and another 90% of those won't even make it a year because they're trying to do it on their own. So outside of that, the other thing is it's boring. So it requires you doing a lot of consistent, boring stuff every day. Social media makes it glamorous, and it's a hustle mentality, and I'm going to, get rich quick. That doesn't happen. It takes a solid year to just build a foundation of something good. You really don't start to see success until years 2 and 3 and beyond. And a lot of people don't think it'll wait that long. And, getting on the phones every day at home when nobody's watching you is boring, right? And it's just like running a marathon. Everybody's like, I could go run a marathon. But when you have to start basically getting up every day and putting in runs in the cold, in the heat, when you're sick, when your body's beat up, when you're tired, you don't feel like it, or there's a million things going on with life and work, you still have to find a way to get it done every day. That's the kind of commitment that it takes for a long extended period of time to be successful. And a lot of people just don't have it in them to do that. So yeah, that's what I see in my experience so far.
Yeah, put in the work just like anything, whether you're an
Just like
athlete
anything
or
else.
yeah.
They say that it's not people like, I want to get rich quick. Well, I don't know about you guys. Listen, I'm not super rich, right? I invested a lot of my money back into my company and my team and everything else. And I delegate more than I have to because I'm time freedom rich, right? I'm not cash rich for my business. I'm time freedom rich. So I pay more and I make less. But in 7 years, my businesses have made $10 million. Like, you can't do that in the W-2. And if that isn't fast enough for you, if you have to just make $10 million in a year with Bitcoin or nothing else matters, then I don't know. I mean, to me, that's pretty freaking fast. I mean, if we achieved that in 15 years, I would have been thrilled. The fact that we've achieved it in 7 is just mind blowing to me. So, but it took us, my first year I only made 73,000. You know, it takes time.
Yeah, not a lot of W-2 jobs are going to pay you $10 million in 7 years or even 10
No,
years. No.
not the ones not the ones that we're going to qualify for.
Why don't we get to our final questions we ask all of our
Sure.
guests just to wrap up the interview and get to know you a little bit better. First question we have is, if you can get on stage for half an hour and talk about any subject in the world with zero preparation, what would that be?
Direct to seller off-market acquisitions. I get up on stage and talk about it all the time. It's very natural. I'm very passionate about it. Obviously, it's changed my life. I want to help people provide more value. There is a need for people that learn these skills to help more people that are distressed. Good people falling through hard times need people like us to help them.
All right. Second question, you might have answered this already, but tell us something that happened early in your life or career that impacts the way you're working today.
Really, it's just, my family falling on hard times and myself falling on hard times. It's just, life's going to kick your butt at times. You have to just keep getting up and persevering. Life is hard for all of us, and it comes in different shapes, different sizes, and different ways for everybody. But we can all make excuses, or we can just deal with it the best we can, just keep moving forward. So, it's taught me a lot of perseverance, but those hard times in life have kept me very hungry still to this day. I don't take anything for granted.
Mm-hmm. Final question, and I've heard a couple books that you've cited already. I heard Gap in the Gain. I heard The One Thing. But tell us something you're listening to or watching or reading these days.
Right now, I'm reading the Entrepreneur Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy. His brand new book. It's fantastic. Halfway through, love it. It's a great book. He's a great author. I like him a lot. But this is even better than his other books, in my opinion.
Are you a listen to book, or are you sit down and
I'm a
read it?
reader. I've done
Really?
both, but these days I read a lot more. I don't have much time to listen to podcasts or audio books, but I get up every morning. I have a very diligent morning routine, and self-development is huge. I want to educate myself as much as possible about everything that I can do to get better every single day. That's a passion of mine, getting 1% better every day.
Well, there's the 1%. Are you a Miracle Morning guy?
I have read both of those books, yes. And Miracle Morning 2019 was a game changer in my life after a very bad 2018 in my business where I thought I was closing the doors forever. I feel like, the Miracle Morning was a huge thing that catapulted me in the success of my life. And the 1% rule, I got a whole bunch of books behind me. I love reading, man. I love self-education. I have 3 coaches right now. I spend a lot of money on coaching. I spend money on training my team. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing I should say also, I mean, like, we hear a lot of real estate books on these podcasts, whether it's ours or somebody else's. You've read all this stuff and implemented all this stuff, obviously, and you're subscribing to it, you're believing it. You mentioned coaching. I think that coaching is hard for some people to swallow sometimes. Like, once you get out of college, you think you're kind of done, right? You don't need to learn anything else. But whether you're working a W-2 job and learning from mentors there, or you're an entrepreneur and you need to follow the pathway of somebody that's done this before you, there's a recipe and there's a network, and an easy way to get access to both is just to buy your way into the right coaching programs and to actually follow it. And I'm sure that you thought about it that very first time before you made that investment. And then once you made that investment, it was probably easier for you to make future investments, I'm guessing.
Sure. I mean, I've always seen a 10+X on every return on every investment that I've done, right? And then, even as I get better and you start to have all this success and experience, you're like, all right, well, I got it all figured out. Then you get a coach and you're like, man, I still have a ton of blind spots that he's bringing to attention to me regularly to help me get better. Listen, we're obviously in New England, so we're Tom Brady fans. That guy had a 20+ year career, right? And he accomplished a lot. He didn't get it from being complacent. That guy was an avid student of getting himself better physically and mentally every single day, whether it was studying his opponents, studying the game, or working on himself to get better. That's what it takes to achieve success, in my opinion. And if you get complacent and don't do that, well, then somebody like me is going to come along and it's going to out-hustle you, outwork you, outlearn you, and I'm going to outproduce you.
It's hard to debate 7 Super Bowl titles. So.
It really is. It really is.
Where can people find you and learn more about the work that you're doing, Jeremy?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So listen, if you want to learn more, then I suggest that you come to our REI Freedom Facebook group. It's in there. There's a go to the pin to the top of the page is a PDF. We're giving it away for free. It's our top sales techniques for more deals, bigger deals with less cancellation. So if you want to get better at acquiring off-market deals like we are, then I I highly recommend just come to our Facebook group, download that PDF, REI Freedom, and then in there, Dan Toback, the great coach that I mentioned earlier, is doing Facebook Lives every single day, giving away knowledge and value of his free coaching every day. It's a place of just abundance learning. That's what we're all about. It's just, we want, we're about collaboration, not competition. We want to foster a community of self-development growth and help people achieve more results that way. So come to our REI Freedom Facebook group. That's the place.
Awesome. We will link that up in the show notes. If just one person does this and changes their life as a result, then we did our job, by talking about what you're doing and by sharing knowledge here in the Real Estate Law Podcast. Rory, where can people get a hold of you?
You can find me in a few places. If you just go to rorygill.com, my name, you'll be able to connect with me and see the different ways I can help you out. You can also check me out through my law practice. That's Urban Village Legal, urbanvillagelegal.com.
All right. Also in the show notes. If you want to be a guest on the podcast, you can reach out to us. Go to realestate.podcast.com. You'll see past episodes. You'll see a way to get a hold of us, and you'll learn a lot more about the show. On behalf of Jeremy and Rory, thank you so much. Jeremy, thanks for all your time today.
Thanks
we
so
really
much.
Appreciate all the knowledge. Rory, thank you for your insights as always. And thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed this episode, we do love 5-star reviews. So please give us one of those on whatever platform you're listening or watching. We read all your comments, and we appreciate your support for the Real Estate Law Podcast. So thank you.
Thank you.